The offseason changes that the Chicago Bears have naturally made a lot of Bears fans more excited about what this team could be in the 2025 season. It's also filled with a little bit of pessimism from some Bears fans as well. On today's episode, we're going to talk about what are the realistic expectations for the Chicago Bears and how should we really view this team heading into the 2025 season. We're going to do all that, plus dive into the mailbag and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bears Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bears news and content.
What's going on, Bears fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bears Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related. I'm the host there, Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Chi Bears Central on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go to get into this content for today, y'all. And the Chicago Bears, there's a lot of things. Over the last week and a half, there's been a lot of kind of media attention around the Chicago Bears, depending from, longer than that, basically since the Caleb Williams dad thing with the book and stuff came out, up until, recently, talking about the Bears, talking about Caleb Williams, and we talked about even, recently him called as the quarterback under the most pressure. And while that's a great headline, make no mistake about it, I think at some point we have to have a realistic conversation about what the expectations are for this team. And, depending on how you want to look at the silver lining, how Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams and, everything that we have going on there's a lot of reason to be excited. I want to make no mistake about it. I am extremely excited about what this Chicago Bears team can be. And a lot of you guys have made great points in talking about what the Bears record could be and things like that. People have pointed out things like, well, how many losses did we have because of lack of coaching? How many losses did we have last year because of the offensive line? And even though we're making a change in coaching staff, which sometimes doesn't always yield the best results right away, how much of that changes, right? Because now you have competent coaches. I think it's easy to look at what the history of a coaching change does to teams, but it's not always easiest to quantify how bad coaching holds teams back from potential wins. And that's even with growth, right? We have a lot of young players on this team that are going to hopefully see a lot of growth from, of course, second-year players in Caleb Williams and Rome Odunze, the players who weren't necessarily utilized the correct way in the last system like a Cole Kmet, guys like Javon, Dexter, who while going into his third year is only his second year going in as a full-time starter, new acquisitions of Drew Dahlman and Grady Jarrett and Dayo Oangbo and all these new guys that we've also added to this team, Jonah Jackson, everybody that we have on that offensive line, Joe Tooney, right? There's a lot of reason to think that things could go a lot differently for the Chicago Bears this year. But you guys know me. One thing about me is that I am a fan through and through. I am a Chicago Bears fan. I bleed blue and orange, and that's great. That's fine. But I'm also realistic in it. And as I've said, over the last couple of days when things have come up about how the Bears can move in the NFC North, let's be clear here. We won 5 games last season. And throughout those 5 games last season, there were some situations in which we probably could have won some games, but we didn't have enough to get over the top. There were some situations where bad coaching and idiotic decisions from Matt Eberflus and others led to some bad decisions being made. But either way, regardless of the reason, the Bears, if they really want to make noise in the NFC North and even have a chance remotely to be top of the division or towards the top of the division, we're talking about they don't need to just double their wins. Right? They need to do more than that. We're talking about 7 or 8 more wins than this Bears team needs. Now, maybe that's not as much with teams like Minnesota having a rookie quarterback starting in there. More on that when we get into one of the voicemails. Teams like Detroit who took several shots, and lost a lot of limbs this offseason with departing coordinators and players and things like that. And then you have the Green Bay Packers, a team that went out and got Jordan Love some wide receivers, but still has some questions around that team as well. But you're still looking at the bare minimum, you got to double your wins over last year just to even remotely be considered a team in this division that's worth talking about. And that's just the nature of being one of the deepest divisions in the league. And so that's a realistic thing there. Outside of that, what also are you looking at with, what are we missing on this team? While the running back room, the coaching staff seems very confident in it, and I think it's not nearly as bad as what some people make it out to be because they don't like some of the names here. They're not the flashy names, but we made changes to the offensive line. And when you go and look at the run blocking grade for most of the players on our offensive line, it shows that The running backs here should, and I'm not going to say they should have it easy, but they should have it a lot easier than what we did last year. Then you have players that have questions about health, like Jaquan Brisker. Is he going to be able to stay healthy? Roshan Johnson, is he going to be able to stay healthy, right? Is a guy like Tariq Stevenson, is he going to step up this year and not make the head-scratching decisions that he made, being a little bit of a head case, right? So there's a lot of reason for huge optimism around this Bears team. But with every bit of optimism, there's also that bit of doubt of, okay, how much of that is going to realistically happen? Things don't typically all break well and great for any team in the NFL. You always have to deal with your own share of adversity. And that's what the question for me is going to tell a lot about this team whenever they face the adversity. Maybe they have some early success, right? As being a new team with new energy and all this. Maybe they come out the gates with some early success and that adversity doesn't come until closer to the middle of the season. Maybe they're a team that starts off the season with some adversity, being all these new pieces and new system in that, and then they hopefully overcome that adversity there towards the middle of the season. Maybe they're a team that faces adversity, different challenges throughout the season, which is a common thing as well, or maybe it comes towards the end of the season. How the Bears face whatever adversity, or how they deal with any adversity that they face this year, that to me is going to be the biggest factor in all of this. Yesterday I talked about Caleb Williams and the growth and what I want to see from Caleb being more than just statistically, right? It's not just about stats for Caleb. I think the things that I want to see from Caleb and grow from the stats are going to naturally come if he develops on those things. But I think that really can be said about this team overall, right? And keep in mind, I haven't even gotten to the questions on, are we going to be able to get to the quarterback enough, which has been one of the questions for this Bears team for quite a while on the defensive side of the ball. Case in point, there's a lot of questions around this team. Now, some of those questions I think have more clear answers than others, and that's perfectly fine. Like I said, with the running back room, I think there's a clear answer there. With the pass rush, I think that's going to be something they're going to have to show. They have a lot of potential there with Austin Booker, Daniel Hardy, Dayo Oangbo to help to kind of relieve some of that for Montez Sweat, but Montez also has to be a player that plays better. Montez and DJ Moore are two veterans that I'm looking at along with Tremaine Edmonds and saying, hey, we need more from you guys this year. We need more from you guys to help uplift this team, and hopefully that you have better support to, of course, get that done. But I'm looking at you guys as veterans who have been in this league for a while to bring something for the Chicago Bears, right? So we're looking for all of that for this team this year. And the question is how much of that is going to break in favor of the Bears? I've said it every season leading up to it, right? And we've all had our amounts of problems, right? Pressure, issues, whatever you want to call them. They can either make your season or they can break your season. How you deal with those is important. And you know what we have that's different is the guy at the top, Ben Johnson. That guy is a little bit different than the people that we've had leading this team in the past. And the hope there is then is that there is a hope that with Ben Johnson and the change that he has there as being a head coach, that this guy's going to get it done. So I think that overall you're hoping that this is going to happen and that the Bears are going to, because of the better leadership, because of the better quality of players, also in the upgrades that we've made around this team, that we're going to be able to deal with some of that adversity better. But let's be clear here. Nothing's going to be given for the Chicago Bears. There's not a single excuse that's going to, now there's going to be reasons. Absolutely. There's going to be reasons why the Bears face some of the things that they're undoubtedly going to face with a tough schedule. And people who are like, the Bears don't have a tough schedule. The tough schedule is extremely tough. You know, some people just want to be different and say things different than what's commonly thought. It's widely accepted. The Bears have a difficult schedule. Get over it, right? So at the end of the day, it comes down to just this simple fact. The Bears have a lot of things that they need to face. And this season is going to be one that, regardless of what happens, win or loss record, and make no mistake, that matters a lot in what's going to happen at the end of the season, but how much growth do we see? How much connectivity do we see? How many of the players that we have here now start showing themselves to be part of this Bears roster going forward? And in Ben Johnson's first year, how much can he show that this was the right decision of him as the head coach? I think he's already done some things to show that. Some. You can only do so much in practice. And all the rah-rah, feel-good things, that's great, especially for Bears fans that have dealt with nothing but bullshit for the last 5, 6, however many years. So I think that the Bears have started to right this ship, but they have not righted it yet. It's not gotten all the way course corrected quite yet. And I think that we're going to get down there and we're going to get to a place where this team is going to get to the place of having it done. And we'll see what happens when it comes down to that. But this team has to show it. This is a show and prove year. I've said it multiple times. Other people have said it. We're not going to rest anymore on just the excitement around this team because we're excited Bears fans and some things have changed. You got to prove shit on the field. And if the Bears can do that finally, then that's where we start getting into a place of now we can build off that and we can start doing better things and getting in a better place to where now we can actually start being a damn football team, because that's what we need to see here. Too long have the Bears just been a team that's just spun the wheels. And they got to hopefully come out of that and be better when it comes down to that. So we'll see what happens. Overall, I'm excited about the season. I think the Bears have a lot that they need to show and prove, a lot that could be possible, but possibilities aren't getting it done anymore. We got to see what this team could be in reality, and let's see what this team could be. But with that said, enough of me yapping. Let's get into the voicemails for today. It is Friday. It is Mailbag Day. This one's from Darius.
What's going on, Darius from Dallas? Just one more time here, man. Hey, you need to stop telling people that I got a problem with complex offenses. Nobody ever say that, man. Nobody ever say that once. What I said was, let me break it down, because you keep telling the nation that I got a problem unless it's trail in the dust 1 yard here, 1 yard there, football, and that's not the case, sir. That's not the case at all. So where I'm at with it is, I like creativity on both sides of the ball, but how creativity looks on defense is it normally means the coordinator's being more aggressive. He's scheming up more blitzes. He's disguising things to confuse the quarterback. I'm cool with that kind of creativity. I love that kind of creativity. But on offense, and we've seen it, when coaches try to get too creative, it looks like a Nagy offense. It looks like a Luke Getsy offense. It looks like a Shane Waldron offense. So when you're trying to be creative with on offensive side of the ball, I just feel like it's a lot easier to get away from the fundamentals. It's a lot easier to get away from the basics when you're trying to be too creative on the offensive side of the ball. On defense, I feel like rarely does a coordinator trying to be creative cause a lot of issues. Definitely not ones that impact the team in a major way. Like, if you scheme up a blitz, a creative blitz, all right, well, the play might still be successful. They might still get some yardage on you, but at least you're trying to be aggressive. At least you're putting a time clock in that quarterback's head. At least you're speeding things up for the quarterback and the offense. You see what I'm saying? But on offense, man, these coordinators, they get too cute, man. They get too cute. And I'm just afraid, my only fear with Ben Johnson is how creative is he going to get. I just want him to stick to who he truly is and who he showed he can be in Detroit. And that's the best offensive coordinator in this league. I feel like he's got that kind of potential. But I know that he's human, man. He's got a creative mind, and now he has a plethora of weapons. And I think it's going to be far too easy for him to overcomplicate things and try to get too cute. And I just hope he stays disciplined to who he truly is and sticks to those main principles that built that offense in Detroit. That's all I'm saying, man. Quit telling everybody I got a problem with a complex offense. Texas up, bear down, dadgummit.
All right. So creativity on the offense and defensive side. I think you're separating I'm not saying you're wrong in creativity, but I think you're looking at more traditional creativity. I think that's so traditional at this point that that's not really being creative. That's being more aggressive play calling as far as how you describe it on the defensive side of the ball, but that's not really creative. I think disguising package and things like that, that's just what smart defensive coordinators do. And I get it. We haven't had very smart defensive coordinators to where that could be confused as creativity. I think what you're looking at is creativity as far as Dennis Allen's system is lining up defensive backs sometimes as linebackers, right? Putting out 8 or 9 defensive backs out there in certain coverages, not just to disguise anything, but so you can have a versatility of what you need to do, having a mix of speed and other things out there. I think that's more of that. Dropping linebackers back in the defensive linemen back into coverage. So that's not, I think what you described there, and that actually goes to the point that I've said to you, that's not creativity. That now what you described is just typical good defensive play calling. I think what you're going to see from Dennis Allen is more creative. I think having players inside the box, outside the box, those type of things, having that third guy that lines up as a linebacker, sometimes being a defensive end, sometimes being a defensive back. I think those are the things that you're going to look at that are more creative than that. Now, as far as what you said on offenses, I do think some can be gimmicky, but I've seen you, like you've literally said that, like, even, oh, well, if you just want a fullback, just get a fullback instead of just lining up a different running back at fullback. No, that is where you get a problem with creativity. And that is things that you said, get Dennis Allen to do what he did in Detroit. That is what he did in Detroit. So saying that you don't want, like, there's a difference between getting cutesy. And I get it. And a lot of what you say sometimes, Darius, comes off as PTSD, as if you've seen Bears coaches do dumb shit, and you have seen them do dumb shit, and then when you hear a different coach doing it, you then say, oh my God, we don't want that naggy stuff. And even, where does Shane Waldron get creative at? Shane Waldron called one of the most bare bones offensive schemes that we've ever seen in a Chicago Bears. And keep in mind, this is a team that's never been known for their offense. So I get what you're getting at, and I agree. You don't want things to start feeling gimmicky, but you do want to take advantage of mismatches. You want to create those mismatches, and that's where you're going to see creative things like what we saw sometimes under Shane Waldron. I think maybe that was more Thomas Brown, but DJ Moore being a running back at times, right? Doing that sometimes, using the speed. We used it not really in the regular season for Vegas, but even Rome ran balls at sometimes, right? So you're going to see some of that. It's going to be taking advantage and trying to keep defenses on their heels, and I think that that's warranted. I think that it's welcome to do that here with the Chicago Bears because, again, you need an identity. And when you say Ben Johnson do the things that he did in Detroit, what we've all been talking about are things that he's done in Detroit. He did, like, so I think that you're going to see a creative offense, not a gimmicky offense, and there's a very large gap between those two things. Look at how Deebo Samuel has been used. That's not gimmicky, that's creative. And I think you're going to see some of that, those type of things with the Chicago Bears under Ben Johnson. And I think that's a really good thing there. Overall, I think that he's going to use his creativity to just put players in, like what he said, it's about getting the ball in the hands of your playmakers in whatever way that comes and trusting them to make plays. And let's hope that they do that and execute that well throughout the season. All right, let's get into this next voicemail. This one's from Seven.
Peace, and blessings. What's good? This is your boy Seven Inglewood's on right now in your zone. And look, I had a question about last week's episode where y'all were talking about the quarterbacks, right? You're talking about the NFC North quarterbacks. And I think it was the one where Steve-O had joined y'all a little late. But getting to it, so y'all was saying that, like, Caleb most likely could, has the potential of being, like, the best quarterback in the NFC North, which I can agree with to a certain extent. But I just want to know, or I just want to ask you all if you think that y'all were kind of overstepping what J.J. McCarthy could possibly do in Minnesota, considering the fact that, and trust, I ain't no Minnesota nothing or whatever. I ain't worried about what they doing over there. But I know, saying that they've had over the past couple of years 3 separate quarterbacks, and all of them have done pretty well. You know what I'm saying? So you had Kirk Cousins. Well, they had 2. So they had Kirk Cousins, who was a vet, and he did like exceptionally well to the point where he got a new contract. Sam Darnold did very well. He was like he was just going from team to team, and now he got himself a multi-year deal, you know what I'm saying? So I'm just saying, do you think that with the system that Kevin McConnell got going on up there, that he could be bringing the smoke to the Chicago Bears and, J.J. McCarthy, even though it's his first year playing, that he could potentially be the runaway winner as best quarterback in the NFC North, with Taylor Williams maybe being a close second? I'm just asking. I'm not saying that could happen, and I'm not saying I wish that at all. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not saying none of that. But I am just saying, considering the previous success of that team, we can't sleep or act like Minnesota ain't got what they got going over there with a young coach, a young team, and an offense that seems to work regardless of who the quarterback is. So anyway, just want to know your thoughts on that. And I appreciate you saying that we could talk about our YouTube channels. I got a YouTube channel called The Blackman Show. Hit your boy up. All right, y'all. Peace. And I'm out.
Yeah, listen, I think that we all said JJ is talented. I think when it comes down to JJ, it's not that we're underselling him. It's just I'm at the point where he got to show me. He's a first-year full-time starter, and you got to show it. Does JJ have the chance to be one of the best quarterbacks, if not the best quarterback in the NFC North? He has just as good of a chance as anybody. And I think the reasons that you laid out and what Minnesota has done with quarterbacks over their history and things, yeah, absolutely. They're going to have an opportunity, and JJ definitely has an opportunity to do that. But I think in the conversation, in the context of the conversation that we were having, we were talking about the confidence level and one of the quarterbacks in the NFC North. And one of the questions that we have around the Vikings and JJ McCarthy is just that This is his first year as a full-time starter. So let's see what he's going to be, because as we've seen before, and yeah, he took the year to sit, and sometimes that helps with that curve, but sometimes as the first year as a full-time starter, it's a little rough around the edges. So we'll see with Jay. But JJ has tremendous potential. Make no mistake about it. He has a lot of potential to do some things, especially in the NFC North. And I hope that we're talking about years and years of battles between J.J. McCarthy, Jordan Love, and Caleb Williams to see who's going to be the dominant quarterback in the NFC North. I would love for that to end up being the case. And if it is, great. We'll see what happens with it. We'll see who develops, and hopefully Caleb makes his case known and comes out of that on top. Let's hope. I'm going to root for our guy. All right, let's get into the next one, man. This one's from Keys.
Yo, what's up, guys? It's your boy Keys on this lovely Thursday afternoon, man. Hope all is well with you and yours. With that, let's get to it. Looking at the news and watching everything with the whole Caleb Williams and all of that, I got to give him some props, and I got to give some props to Ben Johnson. I think that was an important step, an important key, believe it or not, to have him and Rome Odunze, two of your best players, there for that last week of OTAs. It's a new offense, new verbiage, it's new everything for them. So it's very imperative that they be there, not only to get more reps, because the more reps you have, the better football player you'll become. But also, I think it's a tool where it's going to help Ozzie, it's going to help Colston, it's going to help Luther, who really ain't been on the field, but Caleb and Rome maybe can help teach those guys along with Kyle Monanga, and then, it's only going to make them young guys better. So think about it. All of them going to be here in the next 5 years. There may be a chance, DJ, he might retire, all that. You know how the league go, man. So you got to think about it. Building with your core players like that is only going to help enhance what's needed to be done. Then, the biggest news for me, I think, is with my guy, Ruben Hippolyte. Now, first off, that motherfucker is ugly. But I always said, the best players, they ain't the most prettiest, but they make the most plays. And everything about him, every time I kind of watch him play, and I think about those past defenses that maybe Dennis Allen had to deal with and all that stuff, I really think he reminds me a lot of a Jonathan Fillmore, John Beeson, guy that's all over the field. He's faster than them, but they all play fast, and they not the tallest guys, they're not the biggest guys, but they all over the field. And I think with Ruben being added to that, it's going to be something that's going to be intriguing, man. And I think he's going to take that spot. And let's say if Brisker get hurt or Gordon gets hurt, they it's the football. You know what I'm saying? I could see Dennis Allen going with more of a 4-3 base type defense, and they put Ruben out there to do a little bit more covering. But everything about him and everything that I'm seeing, bro, and then you got to remember they also got Power Echols back there. So if Tremaine doesn't work out, if Power steps up to be the tackler that I see him at North Carolina, he could be a very good thing, man. But let me know what y'all think. As always, Chi-Town up, tear down.
I think what you highlighted here and throughout what you just laid out in every step of it is that the Bears rookie class is fucking talented. I think that's just I get it. That's dumbing it down some when it comes down to it, but I think really what you're bringing together all there is tremendous talent over this rookie class for the Chicago Bears. You add to that DJ Moore playing better. You add to that Caleb and the growth that he can have under Ben Johnson and all that, the steps that they can make as a team, as a unit. Yeah, there's a lot of reason to be excited, and I think that we have what we need, and we have what the coaching staff wanted to go out there and get as far as rookies. We have a lot of that talent that they wanted to go out there and get as far as trenches work and things like that. We didn't get all of it. I think that they had their eyes set on a different edge, a different running back. I think they had their eyes set on that. But make no mistake, Dayo Oangbo, more than that in a second, was somebody that we had that Dennis Allen wanted. I think there's a lot to be said about that. If you trust your coaching staff, which is a new coaching staff, but a lot of them have their own accolades, if you trust them, you go out there and get the guys that they say they want. Now, that's not always going to work out. You don't need to always hold it over their head. Everybody has a bad day at the office, but hopefully in trusting that and having the right guys on the coaching staff, that the getting the right guy happens more and more often if you get the guys that the coaching staff has identified they need. I feel like that's what we've done here. What you said about Ruben Hippolyte, I think is going to be huge. I think Ruben Hippolyte has a huge chance. I love that you also mentioned Power Echols, and I think that he has an opportunity to really be an impact player here coming off the bench for the Chicago Bears. And like you said, you never know. He could be our starting linebacker next year with Tremaine departure. You just never know what's going to happen there. So we'll see what happens. Overall, I think there's a lot of reason to be excited about this rookie class and the team overall under the new coaching staff that we have here. And let's see what we're going to get out of it. But all right, let's get into the last voicemail for today, man. This one is from Darnell.
What up, CBC? It's Darnell here, just calling in with a quick question. I was just wanting to see if there was any update. I feel like I haven't heard anything really about Oangbo or Shamar Turner, really. Now, maybe I missed something, I don't know, but just wanted to hit you guys up and see what you've heard, if anything, about those two. Appreciate y'all. Bear down.
Oangbo, we actually heard a lot about Dayo. I think that we heard that Montez Sweat loves Oangbo. Dennis Allen really believes in him as well. Now, we didn't hear as much as like we've heard of like some of the rookies and things like that. I think that just comes down to like Dayo is a veteran. Like he's been in this league for a while now, and I think that his role is going to be very specialized. But Dayo's even talked about his role and how he's going to help Montez Sweat and take that pressure off Montez Sweat. So I think we've heard that. As far as Shamar Turner, we haven't heard a lot, but I think that's because it's been more focused on Javon Dexter, him stepping up as a leader, his role in combination with Grady Jarrett. Andrew Billings getting back healthy have dominated those storylines. But I think once those pads get fully on and once we get in the preseason, because we know that's when a lot of these guys are going to get a lot of opportunity, don't be surprised if you hear some more about Shamar Turner. I think they have a plan for Shamar Turner. I think this first year he's going to be used as that complementary piece in certain specific like rundowns he's going to be used on, but he's learning behind Andrew Billings. He's learning behind Grady Jarrett, and I think we're going to see that role increase over the years, especially if we get any injuries or players sitting. But Shamar Turner's one that Dennis Allen really does love as well, and I think both these guys are Dennis Allen guys. I think they're both going to have big roles for this team. But that's my time for today, guys. Make sure you guys are following us at Chi Bears Central. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns. ChicagoBearsCentral@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-242-9336. We are the number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related, but that's thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, Chi-Town up, bear down. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.